thing. I have to put it on my 2 fingers like this and try to push it back in that thing and squish it up there.
Which is like a video game. Hello Snack Pack, welcome back to Travel Snacks. Today's episode is all about solar power in my van. In today's video, I'm going to tell you how much solar I got, how much the solar package cost me, and how I installed solar in this van. There's a lot to cover in this episode, so let's jump right in.
We are not professionals. If you follow any of the things we do in this video, it's at your own risk.
When I started thinking about adding solar to my van, I had so many questions, and actually still do to this day, but I was very, very overwhelmed. And at a certain point, I was like, I wish somebody would just tell me what to buy. So in this video, I'm gonna just tell you this is the thing that I got, and you can just go ahead and get it too. If you're mainly here to learn how to install a 300-watt solar system from Renogy, that starts here. But for those of you that want to know all the nitty-gritty details, here we go. I am not an electrician. I don't know a lot about solar, but this is what I ended up doing for my van. What is solar? Solar comes from the sun. Okay, let me start over. When you have a van, you have power coming from your main battery. So this battery that I'm gonna talk about that's in your engine is just the main van battery. Now you can get something like a Jackery like this. Mine's only a 240, so you'd have to get something like 1,000 or 500 watts, or something like a Goal Zero, which is basically a battery pack, and you just plug it into your cigarette lighter. If you want something more that's going to be powered by the sun, then you're going to want to go with solar. There's 2 main types of solar panels, monocrystalline and polycrystalline. Just go with the monocrystalline. That's all I'm going to say, because I don't know all the details. The next decision is flat or rigid panels. Rigid panels are the ones that are just regular hard solar panels that you see on a lot of things, even on houses and stuff like that. Flat panels are these really flexible, really very thin solar panels, and they just kind of conform to the roof. How do you get solar panels to power your stuff in your van? Solar panels collect the rays from the sun and go down into a machine called a charge controller. A charge controller regulates the power coming from the sun. The charge controller that you're going to want is an MPPT charge controller and not a PMW or PWM. Then the charge controller regulates it into your battery and just starts to fill up your battery. It gets stored in your battery. There's a lot of different batteries, but the 2 I'm going to mention here are the AGM deep cycle battery and the lithium battery. Lithium batteries are better in a lot of regards because they're lighter, they take up less space, and they allow you to use your full battery capacity. If you get an AGM battery, you can only basically drain it to 50%, and you have to be conscious of that. But the lithium batteries are 3 times the price. An AGM battery is about $300 and a lithium battery is about $1,000. And when you're looking at batteries, the capacity goes by amp hours. Amp hours are how many hours you can use your things. My battery is a 200 amp hour AGM battery, but because I can only use it to 50%, I have 100 amp hours. If I get a 200 amp hour lithium battery, I could use all 200. However, a 200 amp hour lithium battery is probably $1,500, $2,000. And a lot of us just don't have that in our budget. And that battery that sits in the back, we're going to call that a garage battery. From there, it shoots power out in 2 different directions. This is not technical here. I'm just telling you from my mentals to your ears, this is how I perceive what's happening. You have your AC power and your DC power. AC power is what you have in a house. It's the regular plugs. AC power powers things like your refrigerator because you have to have your snacks, and your computer, camera, phone. Then you have DC power, which is like cigarette lighter power. DC power will power things that are hardwired in, your LED lights, your water pump if you have a sink, your fan, like my Max Air fan. AC, DC, wattages, amp hours. It's all so confusing, but you know what's not confusing? Becoming part of the Snack Pack. Hit the subscribe button and the notification bell, and you might as well throw a like on it. So you can get something like a 100-watt panel, a 200-watt panel, blah, blah, blah. But the more watts you have, the bigger the size of the panel. At first I was like, I want 600 watts at least. But when it came down to it, the size of my roof does not accommodate 600 watts of power. So I had to go with 3 100-watt panels. And Renogy, the company Renogy, has a premium kit that comes with everything that I needed. 3 100-watt solar panels, MPPT 40 amp charge controller, the brackets to secure the solar panels onto the top of my roof. It also came with a Bluetooth module so that I can look up the voltages and stuff on my phone, the fuses, and it came with the cables. Everything you need to install the solar, minus the battery and the inverter, which I'll talk about in a second, comes in this kit. Now, what is an inverter? An inverter, I don't really know how to explain it, but basically what it does, it allows you to plug in your AC plugs like that you would use in the house, and it converts the power so that you can use it in your van. And you're going to want to get an inverter that is a pure sine wave inverter, and probably at least 1500 to 2000 watts depending on what you're powering. I went with a 2000 watt inverter from Renogy. Pure sine wave, the sine wave is basically like these zigzaggy lines, and a pure sine wave is just more smooth. That's all I can say. The final thing that I want to talk about with the solar system, and this is something I highly recommend, even though it cost more and it was more involved, is I recommend installing a solenoid. It's a little metal round looking thing that you can get on Amazon for like $20 or $40 depending on when you get it. You could install it yourself, and Bob Wells from Cheap RV Living has a video on this, but I ended up paying a mechanic to do it because me and my dad had so many other projects to do that it just was going to become a bigger issue. The solenoid, what that does, it charges your garage battery as you drive. You're not only getting power from the sun into your solar, but you're also getting power from your alternator when you drive. You're getting power both ways, so that's going to fill up your battery in the back. Even if it's a cloudy day, as long as I drive a little bit, then my garage battery is still getting filled up so that I can use the things in my van. This video does not include wiring everything up. That's going to be in a future video. But let's get on to the install. The first thing you're going to want to do is take some rosin paper or some cardboard and cut out the shapes of all the things that you'd like to place on your roof. So here I am just tracing out the shape on some rosin paper, cutting it out to be pretty accurate because you're not going to want to mess this part up. Configure it to the shapes that you have on your roof. My roof has some major curves, especially up at the top, so I wanted to make sure that my fan was going to fit. If you haven't watched that video already, go check that out. I did a light taping down of all of my fake paper materials. That way you can move them around and see where they're going to fit best. I had to put my solar panels almost all the way to the very back of my van roof, but you have to make sure that you factor in the brackets that's going to go in between the panels, so you have to space them out correctly. Once you have them where you think you want them, tape them down and bring out all your supplies. We started with putting the fan on there first just to make sure that the solar panels were not going to interfere. The fan goes up and down and you want to make sure that it's not going to hit the edge of the solar panel. This baggie they sent me, short bolt, washer, other washer, spring washer,
lock washer,
nut, and bracket. Make sure you don't do it like this like we did the first time, because that's not going to be able to go into your roof. You have to make sure that this, how do you do it? Make sure that this part could go right onto the surface. Next, you're going to want to bring in your solar panels. What is my dad's hand doing? He can't find a place to grip it. Okay, slide it on there. Make sure that it fits over the paper and make sure that it's going to be the right size. And then what you can do is put the brackets down and take a Sharpie and put a dot where the holes are for the screws, and then outline the outside of the bracket so that you're still going to know where to drill and where everything is going to go.
and you want to go slow because you don't want this to hit.
Right. There's a cable that's zip tied under each panel, and you'll have to cut that zip tie off and then connect them together. There's two types of connections. There's parallel and series. I went with series, and you can look that up because I don't know how to explain it properly.
In the video, I'm pretty sure, so I put it on the positive one, so.
Oh, it's in there now.
I gotta fish it through there. And then plug that other one into there, and then wherever we drill the hole for the...
Okay.
There's minus, that's negative.
Just a side note that we did not secure down these panels until we strung the cables through. That way it makes it easier if you need to make adjustments.
So here's our positive,
Okay.
and here's our negative.
Okay.
Here's a final process of tying all 3 panels together.
Bzz.
Oh no. Okay. If we were to take the paper off, we'd have full voltage at the end of these cables.
Oh boy. So to secure the solar panels, we secured them on top, but also inside the roof with these little pieces of wood. How thick are these woods?
Probably 1/4-inch plywood.
And then a big washer and a nut. We took that extra precaution with the wood because this is fiberglass, not metal, and we didn't want anything to strip through. I'm securing this in place while my dad tightens it down. Okay, go ahead. So one thing that we should have done differently is to wait on making this cabinet until we had everything on the roof done, because now we have bolts that are coming through from the solar, but they're all the way back there now. First, this thing, I have to put it on my 2 fingers like this and try to push it back in that thing and squish it up there, which is like a video game. Oh no. Let me see this one. Lighting. Scalpel. Oh boy. Oh, thank God. Thank you, Lord Jesus. Oh gosh, that's great. I'm gonna hold it in place for a second so the silicone can try to harden up. I also have a cut on my finger, which is burning. There's more silicone on my fingers than on that thing. What does he want us to do? Because that wasn't hard enough, I'm supposed to put this nut on the end of what I just pushed back there. How am I supposed to spin it? So my dad came up with this concoction to push this up there. Then he's gonna go up top and try to spin it. Okay, it's in the hole. My dad's a genius.
Sounds like it's working.
I don't want that nut to spin in the wood.
Now it's spinning in the wood.
Let's just get the nuts on first, then I got another idea.
Okay. Now he says Now he says he has an idea to tighten up the nuts. This is my dad's latest invention. This is my dad's latest invention. Okay. We ordered this from Amazon. This thingy. And the 2 wires come through here, and then you string it down into the roof. Once all the cables were strung under the panels, we put them in the cable gland and slid it on top of the roof. Then we drilled a hole into the roof so that we can put the cables into the ceiling. The cables will go into the ceiling along the wall down into the charge controller. To make sure that the cables didn't get cut by the hole, we put some butyl tape around it, which I got at Napa Auto Parts, fed the wires through. Then we used some sealant to secure down the cable gland. Just as a side note, we did use the sealant to also secure down the brackets. We also stacked the brackets on top of each other so that 2 brackets would secure 2 panels, if that makes sense. We also put silicone over all of the nuts and bolts. And we used this black Gorilla Tape sealant, which is a water seal kind of tape, and we put that on all of the wires so that they wouldn't be flapping in the wind and hitting against the roof. If you want to power all things in your van, I highly recommend using solar panels and a solenoid, and that's going to keep you going on your journey ahead. If you have anything to add, please leave it in the comments, and you may help somebody in the snack pack, and probably even me.
Snack time.